Going to be an episode for you if you are looking for the benefits of an investment, but you want to know that there is a security and a guarantee payout if the market crashes. Hello, everybody. This is Heart-Centered Money Conversations. My name is Laura Plahuta. This is Kristen Mabee, financial coach, and we are very excited for this episode. Well, I am anyway, because I had no clue what segregated funds were until we went over this, and I'm excited for Kristen to share more about this so that you can potentially take advantage of this specific account. Is it an account?
The type of investment. We'll go into it.
And so for those of you who are new to the series, welcome. We're very happy that you're here with us. We hope you receive some value out of it. Lots of other episodes that you can check out with all different types of various things. We've done wills, we've done tax-free savings account, we've done RRSPs, we've done investments, we've done budgeting, we've done saving, like there are a whole bunch of stuff. So you can go check that out. And as always, this series is strictly for educational purposes only. We are just here sharing what we know, something that we're passionate about, in hopes of inspiring you to really take it into your own hands of learning, educating yourself financially so that you can make the best decisions for you and your family and your future so that you can be more financially secure and financially free. So without further ado, Kristen, you want to take it away?
Awesome. Yeah, segregated funds is something that I think most people don't know. They're like, say what? It's like haven't heard of it before. So you're not alone. And that being said, is like when we first started the series, it was all about taking away shame and guilt around finances. So if this is brand new to you, that's totally okay. So first, before I even dive into like the nitty-gritty details, I want to explain like what is a segregated fund. So a segregated fund, it's similar to what a mutual fund is. Basically, it allows your money to grow. It allows you diversification, and it has professional money management, but it also has some very unique features that help you protect the value of your money that you can contribute. So I want to look at a few different things of what is a segregated funds in terms of like the investment. So we talked before about the gift box analogy. So the gift box is the type of account, whether it's an RSP, tax-free savings account, registered accounts, or non-registered accounts. That's your gift box, whether it's a gift box or a bag or wrapping paper or whatever it is.
You get as
right?
creative as you'd like.
So it's what you put inside of the gift box that is your investment. So maybe it's a teddy bear or a book, or I don't know, apparently I don't have good gift ideas. right? But say it's what the gift is, that is the investment. So what goes inside of the wrapping. So that might be a mutual fund, stocks, cash, a segregated fund in this case, bonds. There's a lot of different options there. So a segregated fund is a type of investment that you can put inside of your RSP, tax-free savings account. You can go into a non-registered account or a RIF account for those of you that are retired, or if you know somebody who's retired. That's kind of what that looks like. So it's very similar to a mutual fund in terms of like you can put your contributions in kind of as you please. It doesn't have to be a set amount all the time. But it has a few things that are very different than a mutual fund. If you're like, Kristen, what the heck is a mutual fund? Drop me a message below and I'll be happy to answer that, because that could be a whole nother conversation. But essentially it's a different type of investment as well.
Did we do an episode
So
on that?
sorry?
Did we do an episode on mutual funds?
I don't think we have actually. Maybe we should. Add it to the list. That's
We'll do
right.
one. So I'm like, oh, tell me more.
Yeah, mutual funds are great. I love mutual funds. I own a lot of mutual funds. So we should definitely talk about them. But today, segregated funds. So I want to cover some important features and why you might want to use a segregated fund. So one of the biggest features with a segregated fund is that it has a sort of guarantee. So what that means is that typically there's a guarantee if the market goes down and you need to take your money out, you're eligible to take 70, or sorry, they'll give you 75 to 100% of the value of your contributions, right? So it's really good for people that are maybe more conservative. They're like, I want to invest, but I want to make sure there is a guarantee. Like, what if the market crashes? Like, this is your type of thing, potentially, right? So this is why segregated funds can be really useful, or one of the reasons. But there's a lot to know when it comes to the guarantee. So the guarantee, like I said, typically it's 75 to 100%. We're going to use 75 in all of our examples for today. So if the market goes down, you get 75% of the amount that you put in. So not on the growth, okay? So something to keep in mind. But it starts, the 75% is triggered at death of the account holder. So if you pass away, your family is eligible for that 75%, or at maturity. So one thing to note is that a segregated fund is an insurance type product. So if somebody has a life insurance license, they can also sell segregated funds, right? And so it's kind of like a term life insurance in the sense that it has a time frame. Hope that makes sense, right? So we talked about life insurance. So it is a maturity date. It's not really important that's an insurance product, but that's one of the reasons that there's a time frame on it. Okay? So with that, the time frame is a minimum of 10 years, that maturity date. So they say if the market goes down before that 10 years and you want to take your money out, like, sorry, it hasn't matured yet. So there's two reasons why there is the maturity date. One, it's really good for the client because they're like, okay, it's long term. I have to keep my money in here to get this guarantee. So if you're looking for a long term, you need help with some discipline, that might be a place that could be really helpful. It's also for the investment company, like, say you put your money in today and tomorrow the market crashes and you want that 75% guarantee. They're like, whoa, right? So it's for their benefit as well. So that's kind of why the maturity date matters. Other than that, it doesn't really matter too much. So that's kind of the guarantee. So it could be really good if you're a conservative investor and you want to have that kind of guarantee. So I want to look at what happens if you take your money out before the maturity date. So say you put $100,000 into a segregated fund and you take out $20,000, you're like, we're gonna redo the roof. Okay, well now that this is before the maturity date or even after, right? The insurance company or the investment company is going to be saying, okay, we'll guarantee the other $80,000 that's left in the account that you've put in. So you originally put in 100, you took out 20, and now there's 80 left. They're not going to guarantee $100,000 because you took out 20. It just doesn't make any sense, right? Like, they want to help you out. They want your money to grow, but they can't make miracles happen. So that's kind of what it looks like. So if you're like, can I take my money out? Is it locked in until maturity? No, but that's kind of what that means, right? So something to think about. So the next feature is about probate. So basically, like, what is probate? We did a whole thing on wills, so there's a little bit of overlap there. But basically, upon death, the individual's estate, including their investment, passes through probate. So, like, what does that even mean? Essentially, it's a process which the courts validate the will and confirm the authority of the executors to settle the estate, right? So basically, probate, the fee that probate costs varies from province to province, from $0 to like 1.5%. And so obviously, because it's a percentage, it can be a lot depending on how much money that you have, right? So it could literally cost thousands of dollars depending on the situation, right? Like, you don't have a lot of money, it's not going to cost your family as much, right? But if you have a lot of money, it's going to cost your family a lot, right? So bypassing probate can be really beneficial, especially if you have a lot, right? So something to consider. So with a segregated fund, the money is transferred to the named beneficiary and bypasses the probate fees. And so that's where your family would save all that money, because it, like, if Laura's my beneficiary, it goes directly to Laura, without having to go through probate.
And it
Pretty
would speed
cool.
up the process as well.
Yeah,
It could even
that's
take a long
exactly
time for
right.
probate as well, right?
Yeah, because sometimes it can take like months, right, to go through
Oh,
it.
years.
And this typically can happen within like 7 to 10 days. Just crazy.
Mhm.
And I'm going to go through a little bit of an example for you guys as well. So obviously we work really hard for our money. To lose all that money we worked hard for to like fees and taxes and stuff after we pass away and our family gets a little bit after, that's not that good, right? Like we want to leave a legacy, right? We're like, if we're not using that money to live our best life, then we want it to go to our kids so they can have a better shot at their lives, right? Or
Mhm.
whoever that beneficiary is for you. Okay, so the next feature is creditor protection. So this one's also very interesting. Laura and I've had like some deep conversations about like what happens to your debt after you pass away. It doesn't always just like go away, right? So basically, it has to go through your estate, and there's like an order of who gets paid first, right? In terms of your debt. But also, something that we learned just through this process is if somebody co signed on your debt, they're still responsible for that debt after you pass away, right? So, just something to know like, if you are a co signer for somebody or somebody co signed for you, definitely find out what that looks like because it's
Mhm.
like, it's more than just like, sure, I'll just sign a piece of paper. Like,
Yeah.
there's a real responsibility there.
And Kristen, that's something that you could plan ahead for in your life insurance, right? Like if you are a co-signer, like planning ahead for that so that you have the coverage and your partner has the coverage to cover whatever that is in business as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of times when it comes to life insurance, we look to see like what are your debt responsibilities? Like if you were to pass away, let's make sure all your debts are paid off so nobody has to deal with that. And that way, your family actually gets your assets essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so a segregated fund is creditor protected. If your named beneficiary is one of the following: so a spouse, child, grandchild, parent of the life insured, or an irrevocable beneficiary. So, an irrevocable beneficiary says you, like, I named Laura as my beneficiary and I cannot change it unless Laura signs off and says that I can change it, right? A revocable beneficiary, so the opposite, is I name Laura as a beneficiary and I'm like, actually, I want my spouse to be my beneficiary. I'm going to change it. I don't need Laura to sign off on it. So that's the difference between revocable and irrevocable beneficiaries. So essentially, having that creditor protection means that creditors cannot come after that money, which is super important. Like, this could be really big, especially for business owners, right? Who maybe have a lot of debt, right? So those are some of the things. The last one is that segregated funds also have privacy. So a segregated fund is a contract. Like I said, it's an insurance product. So it's on a contract, but it's not a public document like a will is. So that's really interesting because it's like if you want to have things a little bit more private, again, maybe a business owner, a segregated fund might make sense. So those are kind of the different features, but I want to show you kind of like a real life example, like a
Mhm.
real life hypothetical example of how that actually works and what a segregated fund can do if somebody passed away. So I'm going to quickly share my screen here. Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. All right, so we're going to present. Come on, computer, you got this. All right. Okay, so this is the idea that you've deposited $100,000, right? We're looking at the death of the surviving spouse. So if you have an RSP, it'll automatically go to your spouse's RSP if that's how you have it set up. But we're looking at what if both spouses pass away? What does that mean, right? How does it affect the kids essentially at the end of the day, or the beneficiary, right? I always say like the other beneficiary because like Jesse and I don't have kids, right? Like not everyone has that same situation.
Yeah.
So this is after both spouses pass away. So like knock on wood, Jesse and I both pass away, right? So if you don't have a segregated fund and maybe you're in like a mutual fund, So your assets are frozen and become part of the estate. Okay. So the other thing is the executor has to go through all the assets and it goes through probate. In this case, this is an Ontario example. So on 500,000, it would be $7,000 that's being paid out of that. There's also legal fees that apply. Again, it depends on like your lawyer. It could be 2 to 10%. Let's say it's 10, that's $10,000. There's the executor fee. So again, depending on who your executor is, they can take a percentage as well. In this case, let's say $5,000. And it can also be claimed through creditors for your estate that can challenge the validity of your will and can take months to years to actually get that processed. So it can be really challenging. Like a lot of people, even when it comes to life insurance, they're like, oh, like I don't really need life insurance. Like, who's paying for all these things if you don't have anything set up? And
Mm.
it's like, not because I'm like saying you should get life insurance, like do your research and decide what's best for you, but just kind of know that there's so much more to you passing away than you might realize, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like you still have to get your taxes done after you pass away, right? Like you
The
owe on your
tax
taxes,
persons
right?
want their money.
They want their money. So just different things to be aware of. Okay. So that's great. This is, if you don't use a segregated fund. So what if you use a segregated fund? What is the difference? So upon the death of both spouses, the assets pass to the beneficiary within 7 to 10 days and they bypass the estate. That's huge because that's before like the next mortgage payment, right? Like it's incredible because like what happens to your mortgage if they haven't sold the house yet and it takes a few months to sell the house? Like who's paying your mortgage payments? Like,
Mm-hmm.
these are all really good questions to think about. Okay, so the assets avoid probate, legal fees, and possible executor fees. Like I said, executor fees are optional depending on who your executor is. Like if it's a family member, there's probably not going to be a fee. I don't know. It depends on who your family
Like,
member is
I
too, I
will be the
suppose, right?
executor, but I want you to pay me.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, so okay, so it bypasses all these fees essentially. It's creditor protected, right? So it's basically that they don't have access because it doesn't go through the estate the same way. And no possibility delays on challenges of validity of the will, right? Because again, it goes directly to the beneficiary. So these are some reasons why a segregated fund might make sense, right? But it's not like a one solution fits all, right? There's so many different variables. So before I jump into the next part, Laura, do you have any questions about segregated funds?
I don't think so, but I know you know this, but my Opa just passed away recently, and this would have been an amazing account that would have been very valuable for my family. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to kind of like have this put out there. And it kind of frustrates me that well, it's interesting. My Opa was very stubborn, likes to do his own way. So maybe the bank or whoever did tell him about this, and he just didn't put it in there. But yeah, it would have
Yeah.
saved a lot of the fees that kind of gets
Yeah.
passed down.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like I don't think I have any clients that came to me that already had a segregated fund.
Hmm.
Like it's not something that's very regularly talked about.
Hmm.
Kind of like the RDSP, right? Like it exists, but people don't know about it,
Yeah.
right? There are some reasons why a segregated fund not might not be the best solution, and that's what I'm going to go through next.
Hmm.
And so one thing is that mutual funds compared to segregated funds, mutual funds have typically a lower management fee because the mutual funds don't have that insurance guarantee. It doesn't have all these like added bells and whistles, essentially, right? So a mutual fund can typically lead or potentially lead to a higher net return over time because more of the money is being invested. You're not paying as much in fees, so you can invest more of that money, right? There's also a wider selection of mutual funds available compared to segregated funds, so you can tailor your investments a little bit more. And like I mentioned before, unlike segregated funds, mutual funds don't have a maturity date. So you have a little bit more flexibility with accessing that as well, your investment. So basically like fees, flexibility, rates of return are some of the reasons that you might choose a mutual fund over a segregated fund, right? It's like I said, there's no best solution for any one person.
Yeah, for sure.
But I also want to look at is like why I think the guarantee, like this is like my personal opinion, as we say, but why I think the 75% guarantee like really doesn't even matter. And this is the reason why is because it's over, like the guarantee is after 10 years if you choose a 10-year maturity date. Like if you choose 20-year maturity date, then I feel like it really doesn't matter. But say you have 75% guarantee. Well, like I said, that's only on the amount that you put in, not the growth, first of all. And it's after 10 years. So that means that it's had like 10 years for it to grow. So theoretically, say it grows 5% a year and there's a crash like 2008, theoretically, even in that situation, because you have all the growth, you're going to have more money in there than 75% of just what you've put in if there was a crash. Did I explain that okay?
Yeah, it's not fully landing though. Can you explain that again?
Okay, yeah, let me explain it again.
Yeah.
So I'm like, numbers. Okay. So if you're investing over a 10-year period and you're getting a 5% return or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, whatever, right? You're getting like a strong rate of return, then your money's going to be growing over 10 years. Your money should double. Like I'm sure we talked about the rule of 72. Like your money should double over a 7 to 10-year window, right? So if the market crashes and you lose, say 50%, let's be like dramatic, right? Then you're still going to have more in there than 75% of your original value. So
Gotcha.
say you put in $100,000. I didn't run the numbers, so like bear with me. But like say it's $100,000 that you put in, there's a crash. That means they say, okay, we'll give you $75,000, right? But say we invested it for 10 years and your 100,000 became 200,000. There's a crash and it's 50%. Okay, well, you still have $100,000,
Which is
right?
more than
Which
what
is
you.
more than your 75,000.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with money too, is like you can't really have that emotional like jolt with it, you know. It's like it has to be like when you're investing, it really has to be like a flowing thing. Like you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. It has to be like numerous different places so that if one does crash, it's not like the end of the world. Like, you know, it's like, oh shit, like that really sucks. I wish that didn't happen. However, I know that I set myself up in all of these different areas and I know that like me and my family are going to be fine, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like one of the reasons I love mutual funds so much because it allows you to invest in so many different things. And it's like, well, if company A doesn't do well, I got like 300 other companies, I'm fine,
Yeah.
right? Even
Yeah.
if there's like an economic crash like 2008, right? Like we know that it's going to move in an upward direction, right?
Yeah.
Like it's going to move upward. Right.
Yeah.
And like we just had, so it's 2024 for the reference, whoever might be watching this in the future. Like we just had a few years of like some volatile years, but like this year we're like crushing it, you know? So like it's always like moving up. So yeah, it's something that's like, it is good to think about how to diversify. And that doesn't necessarily mean like, I'm going to buy houses and gold and I'm going to buy stocks and segregated funds and like necessarily having like all these different components, but diversification can look like, okay, I'm going to invest in gold. I'm going to invest in staples. I'm going to invest in real estate. I don't know. Right. So Does that make sense? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
That's a really good point though, is because I think we don't we do kind of emotionalize things and we don't think about things logically all the time. Like I always say, like, I have a financial advisor, right? Like I know all of the principles, but like I'm human and I get emotional too. Sometimes I need somebody to say, like, okay, take the emotion out of it and this is what we need to do,
For sure. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Which
So
makes it hard when if you are like kind of like not quite in the place where you're very comfortable yet, like financially, and you have all of like different income streams in it as well, like it takes time to build. So in the beginning, like it is going to be a little bit more emotionally, whatever. But if you, that's, I'm so like, I believe so strongly that if you have the proper strategies in place and
yeah.
educating yourself on these things, you're going to be able to set yourself up so that eventually you won't be in that place where you're having to beat it. But everybody starts there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like we all kind of start from the bottom, right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
theoretically, whatever the bottom looks like for you,
Yeah.
right? Like typically you're watching this because you want to grow your finances. So it's like just being okay with where you are and like putting the pieces in place to help you get
Mhm.
where you want to be.
Mhm.
Actually, this is a really good time. I'm gonna just like talk about, we did the budgeting episode a while back. I can even link it in my Stan store. It's completely free. I spent a lot of time creating a budget. But if
Mhm.
you're just starting, like that might be a really good place to start, right? Just kind of
Yeah.
see like where are you right now, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's a really good point. Is like there's no shame or guilt or regret here. It's just we're moving forward from where we are today.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. So, one other thing I want, this is like a pretty short episode, but like one other thing that I wanted to talk about is that I mentioned that this is an insurance product. So, typically, if you have your life insurance license, you can sell segregated funds. But if you don't get your mutual funds license, you can't sell mutual funds. So somebody might offer you segregated funds because they don't have a mutual fund option for you. So just be really careful again in doing your research because a segregated fund might not always be the best option for people. And I've seen this a lot, and that's why I bring it up. It's just like be aware, right?
Mhm.
Know kind of what your options actually are. Like I had a conversation with somebody and they were like starting to go out and do their own, run their own business. And they're like, I think I'm just gonna have a life insurance license. I don't think I really need a mutual funds like license because like I'm gonna sell people segregated funds. And I was like, dagger in the heart. I was like,
Yeah.
sorry, you're not gonna offer people the best solution because you don't want to get your license.
Yeah.
Like, I know this is like kind of politics in the industry, but like that's what I'm here for is like I want to shine light on what goes on in the industry because I think like the industry can be really convoluted and it shouldn't be, right?
100%. Yeah.
I just mean like it should be easy to understand.
Yeah. And really like
So
client driven, like that sucks when when you're just like in it for like, well, this is the only one product, so I'm going to sell this one product. It's like when you can look at it as like an overall and you have multiple different ways to help people, like you can really get the big picture of what's best for the specific client because every situation is completely different.
yeah, exactly. Like your situation is gonna be different than mine or anyone else that I talk to, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what we specialize in is like having a custom plan for every single person because it's like there is no one right answer,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did want to go through some reasons or like some people who might benefit from a segregated fund or like some people that I've seen in the past use these kinds of accounts or investments. Look what you got me doing.
Selling them in
uh,
accounts.
so these segregated fund investments
Mhm.
is it might be somebody who is older who just sold a house and they have a lot of assets now. They're not necessarily worried too much on the growth, but they do want the security. They want to bypass probate. They want things to move through their beneficiary quickly. They want the creditor protection. That might be a really good person that would be suitable for them. It could be somebody who's a really conservative investor. They're like, I know my money might not grow as much potentially, but I really want to know I have that guarantee, right? Then this might be a good solution. it could be somebody who is a business owner who, like I said, maybe has some debt or wants the privacy. They don't want everything to be public. That might be a good person, right? So there's a lot of different things. So my actionable items for you today is really just to look into segregated funds, learn about them a little bit more, and see if they might make sense for you and your family. And consider this is like in general, I added this in here because I feel like we haven't talked about it in a little while, is just consider opening up an account for yourself, whether segregated funds or mutual funds or whatever that looks like, and just start investing, even if it's a small amount, and just look at whether you want to do a tax-free savings or an RSP. If you need more information on this, we have tons of episodes, but it's just like getting the ball rolling, like Laura talked about, right? So consider like paying yourself first, taking a portion of your pay or your income and putting it away, because at the end of the day, we're gonna get old and like things are gonna get expensive. So it's good to just take that action. So those are really my actionable items for you today. Laura, do you have anything else you wanted to add today?
I don't think so. That's great. Thank you for sharing all of the information about this again. And does anybody have any questions? If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. Maybe
Yeah.
you'd even want to watch this episode again, because I know these episodes can be kind of like a fire hydrant or a fire hose. It's just like with like information. Even sometimes I'm like holding on to my seat, like, oh my God, okay, brain, take it all in.
What just happened?
Yeah. But definitely like feel free to like listen to this. It's all new information even for me too. So it can be a lot to be able to take in sometimes. So yeah, feel free to reach out to Kristen if you want any extra support, or feel free to watch these episodes again. We've got lots of episodes there for you to dive into on your own time. And that's all I have.
Beautiful. Yeah, so thank you for joining today, Laura. It's always good to be in the safe space with
Thank
you.
you.
And thank you everyone who watched this video, and love to see the comments below. Feel into your heart around your finances, and we'll see you on the next episode all about group RSP plans. Awesome. Take care.
Bye, everyone.